Hi everybody, it's Russell Markham here from VectorVest. I'm really excited to announce, is nickel the new gold? The presentation, it's live now. Let's do this. Let's switch my camera over to myself here, just so you can see me effectively. So you should be seeing me popping up. And it's great to see so many of you along. I noticed quite a few of you had registered, so really exciting. For those of you that can't make it live today, no problem, of course, you'll be watching the recording. All right, so with that said, let's transition over to the slide set here. There it is nickel the new gold? Just before I get going today, just a little bit of background behind me as well. So my name's Russell Markham. I'm the Director of Education for VectorVest Asia Pacific, and I've been teaching the use of VectorVest now for coming on to 12 years. I just love the use of VectorVest, incredibly powerful system. And let's move transition over to here. There we are. So our disclaimer statement. VectorVest here, you can see we're authorized representatives here of Central Wealth PUI Limited, and you can also refer to our financial services guide on our website there. Okay, if I move down over here, any advice is general advice given today, so please just do be aware of that. And past performance is not a guarantee of future results. All right, so please do be aware of that. Forecast backtests used or discussed in this presentation are intended as a guide only, and actual results may be affected by known or unknown risks and uncertainties, and therefore may differ materially from the results ultimately achieved. Okay. So let's get into it. Is nickel the new gold? All right. In 1751, nickel was first identified by the chemist Axel Croston. Did I pronounce it correctly? All right. So Axel F identified nickel 1751, and it was first mined in Norway in 1847. All right. So the name comes from a German term, Kopfernickel, I think I pronounced it correctly. I YouTubed how to pronounce it correctly. Hopefully I've nailed the pronunciation, but it was nicknamed Devil's Gold because it was so difficult to mine. It was a difficult thing to mine. And here we are all the way in current day. Today, it's a 20 billion plus US dollar industry. So incredibly big industry there. So why is it so important? And why am I saying is it the new gold? Well, let's have a look here a little bit further. So nickel is in demand as we move towards electric vehicles. Nickel is used in batteries, so it makes up a lot of the use there that takes place in batteries, and we're seeing world demand for electric motor cars picking up. You know, when you think back when Elon Musk first released the Teslas, there were a lot of analysts saying this is not going to work, there's not the demand worldwide. Now we're seeing huge adoption taking place, not just in civilian cars, so to speak, but also in industrial uses now. So there's going to be EV type cars coming out for potentially trucks and buses. There's work being done on those now, and in fact I think there's one or two companies that already have variations of those out. Okay. Nickel is used to make stainless steel production and to plate metals to avoid corrosion. Now you think about the world population, we're growing in size. There's more and more construction taking place every year around the world, and nickel is absolutely vital in that stainless steel. You think of all the stainless steel struts that go into concrete, into, let's say, Besser blocks as apartments get built. You can't have your metal struts that aren't sort of coated with, you know, anti-rust, you know, aren't a type of alloy, haven't been used with a bit of nickel. What would happen over time? Of course, corrosion would take place and that building would implode. That can't take place. So it's just critical for those things. It's used to make alloys stronger. So vital. So just some of the uses, and if you Google this up and have a look, you'll see there's over 3,000 plus products around the world that need nickel. And things like wire. Think of where wire goes into building construction, into aircraft. You think about where it goes in all over the place, right through into electronic components. Coins. Yep, believe it or not, most of your coins you've got in your pocket have nickel in them. An alloy there to prevent them from corroding and the likes. Turbines, the all important turbines, whether that be gas, cogen type turbines to produce electricity, right through to other types of turbines used around the world. Rocket engines, right? Transport, aerospace, architecture. That's just to name just a few of the uses. So I didn't want to inundate you with, all the many hundreds of thousands of uses there for nickel, but you can see just briefly, just that snapshot there, just how important it is. All right, well, okay, so we've kind of spoke about the importance of nickel, but if it's important, if there's plenty of supply coming into the market, well, is it really such an issue? Well, let's just have a look at the reserves to begin with, and then we'll drill into the demand and supply. So we've established the importance of it. So who are the countries around the world that have these all-important nickel reserves? Indonesia at 21 million tons, Australia 20 million tons. Depends on what research you're doing at what point in time. I try to get the most recent research, and I've put a link down there for the source. All right, so give or take, I'm not saying this is 100% accurate. It just depends on the snapshot in time as to when the research was done. But this is fairly accurate in terms of what we're noting here. Brazil, Russia, Cuba, Philippines. All right, so you can see Australia is a big player, a big player right up there, on path with Indonesia. I found this very interesting graph here by Rastad Energy. All right, and then note the source. The Rastad Energy Battery Materials Cube, Rastad Energy Research and Analysis. I thought they did a brilliant job of mapping out demand versus supply. So forecasted total nickel demand, you can see how it's growing. No surprises, more and more construction taking place around the world every year, more and more electricity being required for those turbines in those electricity, gas, cogen type plants and the likes. All right, more and more demand for batteries, the all-important batteries, as there is more and more demand for those battery-powered vehicles like Tesla and the likes. And you can see here they're putting in the forecast over here in terms of nickel for batteries. So this is the total demand. All right, so and this is nickel for batteries, and you can see how that we've come up from about 9 or 10% in 21, 22. All the way to a forecast there of about 31% of nickel will be used for batteries. All right, so you can see just how that's driving up that demand. You can see there forecast total nickel demand. You can see it's picking up. So this is in thousands of tons of nickel. And you can see if we look at where we are now in 2022, 2,500,000 tons is the demand, and you can see it's gone from about 2,500 all the way up to 4,000 and higher in 2026. And then you go, okay, well, it's interesting, that's the forecasted demand, but what about the supply? So coming in and looking at the supply, you see around about here, 23 onwards, it looks like at the current rate that supply is not going to be able to keep up with demand. And, basic economic analysis would tell you, well, if your demand exceeds your supply, then it's going to put upward pressure potentially on price unless further supply can come to the market. So time will tell. So we're in a very interesting period of time currently. Move on a bit more here. So nickel demand. Let's look at demand here for batteries. So we saw on the previous slide the uplift in demand, and this is a source there from Bloomberg as cited from Seeking Alpha. So the article there from Seeking Alpha then sourced a graph there from Bloomberg, and I found this very interesting where you're effectively seeing that demand really sort of taking off for batteries. All right, so it's really sort of picking up there, and we're here at 2022, so you can see it's really going to ramp up as demand continues for the batteries, which in turn places demand on nickel. Here's another one from Bloomberg, also cited from Seeking Alpha article. They noted this Bloomberg chart, very interesting again. 219 to 230 battery demand increases, increased forecast for EV metals. All right, nickel battery demand forecast to increase by 14-fold. So from 219 through until 230, based on 219 demand, nickel is going to be demanded 14 times higher than what it currently is. Look at that, aluminium as well, 14 times. Phosphorus, iron, copper, graphite, lithium, cobalt, manganese. There is a lot of demand for these metals going forward. You know, depends on how you classify it, but effectively nickel there in high demand for all those alloys. All right, so what about supply around the world? Right, and this was an interesting snapshot here from Horizon Minerals, and I'm sorry it is slightly blurry. I try to blow it up as best I could, but you can see over here Asia Pacific, just how important Asia Pacific is in supplying nickel. And you can see over here, you know, Australia is very important, you know, along there with Indonesia as well. A bit of supply comes in from Canada as well, a fair chunk of supply, but you can see Asia Pacific is absolutely key for that supply. So nickel mine production, so here it is in numbers. So this was as of 2020. All right, so you can see Indonesia there. So this is in supply in tons, all right, and you see here MT, millions of tons. Indonesia 800,000, Russia 270. You can run your eye down through here. You can see United States at 14,000, so you can see they're being absolutely dwarfed by Indonesia, Russia, New Caledonia, and Australia. So you can see just how important we are for nickel supply around the world here in Australia. We're a very important cog. Whoops, my numbering's gone a bit awry there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're missing number 4 there. It doesn't matter. It's not an issue. I just wanted to basically show you the top 2 or 3, and then I wanted to just bring in a few others. I don't know where number 4's gone. I'll have to go back and find where number 4 went. But nonetheless, you can see just how important we are here in the global picture. All right, so we spoke about demand, we spoke about supply. If we go back to that graph, over here you can see the differential between, you know, supply versus demand, and you can see how that pressure is starting to form now. We're starting to break away where there's going to be more demand relative to supply. And if I come back down here, you can see what's happening. Look at this. This is a 30-year view on the price of nickel. And as that supply is not able to meet the demand, look what's been happening recently. The price, this is US dollars per metric ton. So MT, sorry, just to clarify over here when I said it wasn't millions of tons, it was metric tons, beg your pardon, metric tons. All right, you can see here, you can see just how that price is really starting to ramp up there. All right, so let's grab that website up. I've got it bookmarked here. I'll just open it here for you. I found the site here very useful. So it was indexmundi.com, and in there I've looked up the nickel price over the last 30 years. You can see just how it's really ramping up. If you bring it in over the last 5 years, this really, let's close out of here, it really brings home just how quickly the price is moving up. Look at that. All right, so US dollars per metric ton, 9,980,000. This is in thousands, and you can see, so 9.98, and it's rocketed all the way up to 21. You know, over 200% uplift in price. So you can see just how quickly it's moving. All right, we'll come back to another graph here. Now, in terms of warehouse supplies, you know, it's going to be impacted. It's going to be impacted by the supply available. So this is the London Metal Exchange nickel warehouse stock levels. So just tracked via the London's Metal Exchange, and you can see just how over the last 5 years how those supplies are being eaten up. So let's just hop back to Google here and just to show you. So in here, Kitco Metals, and you can look up nickel. For example, lots of different metals you can go and have a look at, but here's nickel over the last 24 hours. Let's look at it over the last 30 days. Look at that. This is US dollars per pound. So on the London Metals Exchange, they effectively listed in pounds. All right, so I think it's what's it, 2.2 pounds to a kilogram for those wanting to convert it into kilograms. But you can see over here, around about $10 odd, and it's gone up now in the last 30 days to well over $11 US dollars per pound. That's just the last 30 days. Last 60 days, you can see something's really happening here around about 9, and it's rocketed all the way up to over 11. And here we are, 6 months. Look at that. So about 8.5, around about there, all the way to where it is now. And over 1 year, it's really telling. Look at that, over the 1 year time period. All right, so you can see that there's some things up. You know, clearly there's a lot of upward pressure on price. It's been driven by the fall in supply. Here it is over 5 years, as we saw on the other one that we noted here. So the two different ones you can look at, depending on how you want to look at it. Remember, this is US dollars per metric ton, and this is US dollars per pound. So just be aware it is a different calc, but it's the same trend because it's linear, right? So you can see here, 30-day London warehouse stock levels really falling quite heavily there. You know, there we are. So that was 30. There's 60. Real trend developing here. Look at that, 6 months, really going south fast. This is over 1 year. So, you know, those Tesla vehicles and the likes demanding that need for nickel. Here it is over 5 years. So you can see that real downward trend there taking place. All right, so I found that very interesting because it all bodes, you know, well into the overall support for nickel prices increasing. Now, of course, if you need nickel for your manufacturing, this is not a good story for you. It's going to put a lot of upward pressure for those of you investing in nickel. It looks like there's a lot of upward pressure on price. Okay, so let's do this now. We've painted the bigger picture on nickel. So it was interesting to see the bigger picture, but why don't we now go into VectorVest and look at some of the best nickel stocks out there that VectorVest tracks in Australia. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go look at all the nickel stocks in Australia, and I'm going to whittle it down to just a handful of stocks based on fundamentals and technicals. All right, so with that said, let's move over here and let's jump into this one here. All right, so in VectorVest, if you are a subscriber, or if you'd like to take out a trial and trial us out for 30 days, you can hop into the Viewers tab, and within the Viewers tab, we've got a watch list viewer, and within watch lists is this one here called Commodities, and here called Nickel. This is a standard one. You can't add to it or delete it. It's a template. It's in there. We update it each month, and what I've done here below it is I've put this one here called Nickel Shortlist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out a couple of nickel stocks and then shortlist it down to the ones that jump out to me the most. Now, just a word of caution on this, and I'll just bring the camera back into me for a second here. You know, just a word of caution on this. This is not advice. Please do speak to your financial professional. I cannot say whether these stocks are suitable for you or not. I'm licensed to give general advice and general advice only. So from a general perspective, I'm looking at the ones that jump out. From a fundamental and technical perspective, I cannot say whether these are suitable for you or not. Okay, so let's get into it. So in VectorVest, we track 69 stocks in Australia that are associated with nickel. Now, not all of these stocks are going to be nickel stocks. All right, pure nickel players, what I mean by that. Yes, they've got exposure to nickel, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're pure nickel players. I mean, everybody knows BHP, for example. If you're new to investing, no doubt you most likely have heard of BHP. I think just about everybody in Australia knows of BHP. BHP has got an interest in nickel, coal, copper, you name it, iron ore. All right, so, you know, multifaceted, so to speak. So is Rio Tinto. All right, so you just need to be aware of that. You know, Oz Minerals heavily into copper and gold, but there's also some nickel in their business undertaking. So just be aware of that. Right, so first thing first, I'm going to do something really easy to do in VectorVest. You see all these numbers here, don't let any of that confuse you to begin with. VectorVest will rank and sort all of the nickel stocks with the best fundamentals and technicals at the top of the list, and the worst ones here down at the bottom of the list each and every day for you. What I'm going to do here for demonstration purposes today is I'm going to say, find me the nickel stocks, you know, stocks associated in some way, shape or form with nickel that have got some of the best financials currently. So I'm going to click on this indicator here called relative safety. It looks at all the cash flows, the balance sheets, income statements, all that key financial ingredients, and it crunches it into an easy number on a scale of 0 to 2. And basically above 1 means on average the financials are pretty robust, and below 1 is telling you just need to be a little bit more careful. If it's only marginally below 1, I'm not overly concerned. If it's dramatically below 1, I want to be careful. So straight away, here we are. Here are all the RS stocks, relative safety stocks, sorted in descending order. So for my analysis here, I'm just going to basically keep my analysis to the top safety stocks, and I'm going to graph a handful. So I might just graph, say, that many there, just a handful there, and I'm going to graph them. What I'm going to do here is I just purely, for this exercise here, and I'll just clear this all up, I just want to look at one thing only, just the trend of the earnings. What are the trend of the earnings doing? So you can see on this one here, I've been having a bit of fun drawing here, seeing the price is going up, but the earnings are starting to slide, and that to me I don't like. That's a divergence. You see here, bearish divergence. Earnings fall, price keeps going up. At some point, that price will follow the earnings at some point. This is a 12-month leading forecast on earnings. So it looks at historic, current, and then it builds in the forecasts. I want to see companies where the earnings are growing. So it's just a matter of just simply going through the list and noting them down. So see here, right, this is good. This is what I'm after. Look, although the price is having a bit of a breather because the market overall is slowing down, it's been a downward market for a while now, but look at those earnings. The earnings are powering up. Right, so the first one I'm going to jot down there is IGO. I keep going a bit further. It's got to jump out at me. I've got to see those earnings holding steady or going up. All right, MLX. I mean, the earnings are not going down, which is good. They're going up, and they're holding steady. And I like the pattern there. The price pattern's pretty robust. Right, so I'll note that one down, MLX. So this is how we use VectorVest to identify some great opportunities. I really like the fact that the earnings are they've come off, and now they're starting to ramp up again. Yep, a little bit of turbulence there, but it's really starting to turn the corner there. There's a lot of sliding away in the earnings, and look at this, just starting to fire up again. Just starting to fire up here when the earnings are falling. The price is flatlining. It didn't fall as heavily as one would have anticipated, but over here you can see how the earnings came off. It kind of went sideways. Earnings starting to pick up. Look. It's starting to pick up. So I like the story that's starting to develop here. The earnings are starting to turn around. So WSA, next one across. No, it doesn't jump out. It's got to jump out at you. Let's see. Aha, look at this one here. Earnings turned around, up it came. Earnings came off. Obviously something's been cleared up again. Up come the earnings again. So this one here, MCR. So it's just a matter of just going through the list and getting the ones that jump out. This one here, it's had quite a lot of pullback, and look, in recent times, those earnings have just started to pick up again. So I'll put the last one in there at NST. Right? We've sped things up significantly by sorting our stocks with the best financials at the top of the list and then coming down. So you know that the ones that you're picking on are some of the strongest financial ones out there. Once I've jotted down 4 or 5 that really jump out at me, I can then generate a new watch list. I've just simply gone to new watch list and created it, just give it a name. Now I can plug in my stocks. Right, so I'm going to plug them in, IGO, MLX, and then you be the judge to see what you think. MCR, I'll put in .AX to tell it it's for Australia. And there we are. So there they are. What do I got? What do I do? 5 in total. 5 in total. Price of 540, value of 470. It's neither here nor there. If you're very conservative, you might want to make sure that you remove anything where it's dramatically overvalued. So VectorVest will value up the price and value each day. I'm looking at the net effect. The 540 versus 470 is neither here nor there. And let's do this. I'll right click, I'll view the watch list average. See what you think. Right, so here we are. We've got some nickel stocks. We're seeing a big turnaround now taking place in the earnings. Look at that. Up come the earnings, and up come the share price of those nickel stocks. So you can see over here, if I were to run a test, let's say at the start of the year, so based on those stocks, if we go back to the start of January of 2022, let's quick test, and we'll quick test all of those as of the start of January 2022. Look at that. So This one up 7, 6.9. This one down 1.76. IGO down 7%. But still, that turnaround has just started. If I roll that forward until February, right? So we've only just started this journey. It's early days in the journey. Let's roll it forward a month and quick test all. So we'll grab a quick test. Look at that, up 6%. So you can see over here, Northern Star. So now we're getting closer to our time when we're talking about this analysis, right? So Northern Star up nearly 20%, MCR 17, MLX 1.86, and these two here are yet to get going. But those earnings are starting to fire up. All right, so we're going to be patient. We'll wait until that market turns around, and at that point, that's when we could consider these types of nickel stocks if one wanted. So the last thing I'll leave you with is graphs. If I go to our market timing graph, and on here, I'm just going to make it a very simple graph here. We've got our timing signals for our overall market. So if I go back over time, you can see when we get an entry signal to consider going into the market, you can see some of them, some of those signals last for a long time. It's a good time to be careful, good time to consider, be careful. This was a whipsaw, very short-lived, down and went again, and we're still in that confirmed down. So we're going to wait. If you're conservative using VectorVest, we would wait until a confirmed signal to consider a type of strategy, for example, like nickel, because once you get that confirmed up signal, then you could come back, revise, double check again. Is this doing what I want it to do? Are all those earnings, look at those earnings, really going gangbusters at the moment. Yes, and that would then be a strategy for you to consider. So how easy does VectorVest make that for you? So all we did is we went to nickel in the VectorVest system. We found some of our safest nickel stocks by sorting by this powerful indicator called relative safety. We graphed the given stocks. So we just simply went through and graphed them. We picked on the ones where the earnings jumped out, like IGO. We put them into a shortlist by just generating another watch list, just by simply creating a new watch list and giving it a name. I gave the name nickel shortlist, and we put our stocks in there. That was it. There's our shortlist. So that exercise that I've shown you today, for example, you can do that with aluminium or coal or cobalt or copper or hydrogen or iron ore, or as we've done today, nickel, oil and gas, rare earth, silver, steel, you name it, you can do it all there. Just going back to our slide sets, do you recall that demand? Do you remember there was that slide there? Let's just go back to the one there on the different types of demand, 219 versus what the demand will be in 2030. So you look at that and go, oh, okay, well, nickel's interesting, but look, aluminium as well. All right, well, let's jump out of here. Let's go to aluminium. So you would do the same exercise again with aluminium. All right, so just a few stocks here in aluminium that we're tracking at the moment, and I would go through and I'd graph. Pick on the ones where the earnings are lifting up. Okay, so this one over here, just starting to turn around again. So away you'd go. You might want to look at cobalt or whatever it might be. Same exercise, go through again, RS, pick on the ones. And that's how you pick the best ones out there. It doesn't have to be in commodities. It can be on many different types of ones that we track as well in VectorVest. The last thing I'll leave you with here, if you like what you see, what you can do each and every day is you can go and look at the VectorVest portfolios to get some ideas. So one of our best portfolios there is our 10 stock model portfolio. We're not fund managers. We don't manage money. We're not brokers. We don't place the trades. I'll just make it jump out its hand here. All right. We give you the tools, and one of the services that we provide each day is we track several portfolios in the VectorVest system. So you can log in each day and see what you think. So if you like the look of this, you can see exactly what's being held at any point in time and make up your mind accordingly. Okay, so there's some very interesting ones in here. That's a 10 stock portfolio. It's a trend. It looks for momentum. The income portfolio here is looking for those high dividend yielding stocks. Look at those dividend yields, very high dividend yields, and also maintaining and growing capital growth. So you've got all these ones here. There's another growth portfolio here. So you've got all these wonderful portfolios. You can log in each and every day and see what they are doing to get ideas. All right, so anyway, let's leave it with the nickel shortlist. There it is. All right, so based on the analysis today, I've whittled it down to these 5 that really jumped out at us. And let's move over to the slides. The last slide I'll bring up here. If you like what you saw and you want to take out a trial, then you can hop along to our website, www.vectorvest.com.au. I'll load that up now, and you'll get a 30-minute free training session by one of our Melbourne-based consultants. You'll be invited to our monthly online VectorVest investment gathering each month, along with all of our Q&As that take place each month. So you get access to our weekly videos and essays, and I showed you there the portfolios that we track each and every day. And of course, all that wonderful analysis that VectorVest provides for you. All right, so let's, I'll hop over to the website here. I'll just go over here, vectorvest.com.au, and in here, there's our web page for Australia, and you can then click on a risk-free trial to take out a trial. So www.vectorvest.com.au, that's where you can click on to take out a trial. I hope you got a lot out of the presentation today. Is nickel the new gold? So let's summarize it up and bring it over and close out. Is nickel the new gold? Well, I'd have to say that certainly the analysis shows that nickel has a lot more uses than gold. So maybe it's the new gold standard. Perhaps it is the new gold. Perhaps it will become absolutely golden in terms of what it's needed for going forward as we transition into an EV related type environment with our vehicles and the likes. So I'll leave you to decide. My view is yes, I believe it is the new gold. It will be in high demand in years to come based on the analysis that we're seeing to date. All right, thanks again. I hope you got a lot out of it. Let's move over to the final slide there and leave it there. Thank you for coming along. Don't forget, next week, same time, same place. So make sure you're checking out your YouTube channel there. We've got another great talk coming up for next week. Hope you got a lot out of it. Bye for now.